it's Lisa. I've noticed over the years in scrapbooking that a color combination that just keeps coming up over and over again is pink and aqua. I like both colors. I seldom wear them together, so I seldom have photos where both of those colors are in there if you're picking up colors from clothing and things and background images, and they're certainly not the best colors for masculine images. So I'm challenged to use these colors even though I like them, because I typically pull colors from my photos. That usually is part of telling the story, is in setting that stage. But today I have some photos that have a lot of pink and aqua. So it was a perfect opportunity to work with those colors. I have photos of me setting out Glad bulbs last spring. My husband had had surgery and he wasn't allowed to do anything for about 6 weeks after his surgery, so I got the bulb planting started last year, and it was the first time I'd done that in quite some time. He even has this device, this little auger that goes on the drill to drill the holes, because we've over the years had so many bulbs, sometimes hundreds of bulbs, and so I got them started. I can't remember if I did all the bulbs last year or if I just did the first ones. I think I did most of them, so that we put in the ground, and we always have some that come back year after year as well. And then I have photos of the some of the arrangements in the house. So I've done pages on the Glads before, but it's always a fun one to capture. A challenge that I have with doing pages though about flowers is there's I think an instinct to go to your floral papers and your floral embellishments, and to me those very often take away from the photos of the flowers unless you have something that's really very much the same. I have this one stamp that looks like a lot like the Glad flowers, and I've used it before on pages, but most of the time things don't tend to work, I don't think, with these. What I did for product was I went to my collections and I pulled out 3 collections that had pink and aqua in them and that had something to do with gardening, and so it kind of started from there. And I just, this pink paper is a really old one. It was in my stash by color, so I got that out first, but I'm not sure if I'm going to end up with that or some other things. So I'm just going to start going through some of the materials, and I'll talk a little bit about why I like or don't like certain things out of these. This arrangement is kind of what I'm thinking about, cropping these photos down, and just, they're not the same size, so not all of them, so I'm just going to kind of stagger them around the top of the page, and then these photos together in a grouping towards the bottom, and then maybe the title through here. There's not going to be tons of room for embellishment on this page anyway, because I have 7 photos. This is from Pebbles. 6x6 paper pad called Garden Party. I'm going through mostly and finding some of the extra things that I want to use, maybe some of these pieces that papers that I could cut apart. Kind of getting a feel for what's in each of these 6x6 pads. This is an old basic grade collection, Hillside, that also has a garden theme and some pinks and greens, although it's not the aqua. And what you'll find is that the idea of using pink and aqua kind of gets abandoned, and I end up with a more traditional green. It's what sort of goes better. Now I have all the 12 by 12s for this, and one of them was there's actually a couple of really pretty pinks there that I'm going to try out with the background papers as opposed to the one I had just pulled out of my pink stash. And then these papers are basic gray, and they have more peach tones as well as the pinks, and that didn't really go with my flower pictures, so I decided to stick with the pinks from that other basic gray collection. I like that slightly more patterned paper on the background. I am still considering some of the embellishments from the other basic gray collection. I've trimmed my photos down, and I feel like they need to be anchored on the page some, because there's a lot of photos that are just sort of floating around there. And one of the best ways to anchor photos is to use papers, and since they're small photos, I think I can work with some of these 6x6s. My initial thought was to put greens behind them. What I realized though is that those 3 photos on the bottom look really much better with the pink background. And so if I don't want to leave them straight onto the background, then I need to find something else pink. And I found a real small scale pink and white that they can still show up well with. And then this green stripe, I just cut that in half, and then I'm just going to match, sort of overlay the green paper back behind the photo so that the seam is hidden by one of the photos, and it looks like a strip going across there. I do like this homegrown sticker. Probably put that somewhere on the layout. Right now I'm looking at some other options. One of the things that came with this basic gray collection, this was in their last warehouse box that many of us bought, and it came with these little plant stakes, and we were all kind of like, what do we do with these things? And what I'm going to, since I'm doing a page about planting, this seems like a good place for them, I thought I would take these small cut aparts that I have from another company's 6x6 paper and trim them down and put them on the stakes to make my own custom embellishment. And I glued them on there and they looked okay, but they need something, I think, to make them dress up a little bit. So what I'm adding is some laminating film. Now if you don't have laminating film, you can use packing tape for this. So you just want to stick them face down to either the laminating film or packing tape and then trim around the edges. And that makes them look more like it's a purchase, an embellishment that came that way instead of sort of pieced together. And I could put other things on here. I could put an enamel dot on there or had some ribbon or just, you know, other little touches to it. Do a little bit of trimming, and then one thing that really helps them to sort of finish the edges is to take an emery board and go around the edges as well, and that just sort of makes it look like the whole thing is coated. And I just keep old emery boards in my craft room for this kind of thing. Just very lightly around the edges. So that's a way to, you know, add something to your wood veneer pieces. Or in this case, this didn't even really have veneer on it. It was pretty much raw wood. All right, so I've got things glued down. I do feel like I need a little bit more of something underneath my title and to the left, and also up there where I'm putting one of those stakes. Another thing to sort of anchor the photos I thought would be some trim. So I'm using just a thin layer, just one layer of baker's twine, going across under and over some of the photos. And then we're going to tie a string of baker's twine around the little plant tie, or little plant labeler thing. Plant stake, that's what it's called. I'm just going to tie this around, and it's going to look like it's all tied together when I'm done with it. In reality, the baker's twine is just going to wrap to the back and be fastened down with regular tape. And then we'll just glue that on. And before I glue these other pieces on, I'm deciding on a third embellishment. The camera looked good because it was wood veneer, but I really liked that piece of flair that had a green and pink tree on there. Adding more stickers didn't work because they tended to take away from things. So what I find is some rub-ons to try to add to just sort of fill in the gaps here. In one place it doesn't work because I've got the white color rub-ons on a white paper. It just doesn't show up, but it does show over there underneath the planting time that I put on with thickers. And I got a little rub-on in the wrong place, and a clean eraser will often bring that off. And then I can just finish gluing these pieces on, and I put them on with glue dots. And then we'll do a close-up of the page so you can see the finished page. I typed my journaling on the typewriter. It wasn't perfect, but it got the sentiment on there, and I used a paper from the 6x6 pad to type that on. So you can see the page close up. A lot of photos on this page to capture an event from last spring. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I love to get thumbs up on my video. That helps, I think, YouTube advance my channel. And so I hope you'll check out some of my other videos while you're here on my channel. Thanks again.